just think it's important. I keep coming back to the collaboration. It's all a function of we've combined several different companies in short order. We've grown quite a bit on some of the things we've decided to invest in as far as resources and businesses. And the key thing is having your main leaders, your team members have a seat at the table. And I think when you get that feedback from them, you're kind of giving it's good direction to as where you want to go. So I think being collaborative at the top ranks and then have that go out through the organization is important. And you always don't have to agree. Actually, it's better sometimes if you don't, because you're truly getting good input. But I think that's a key to what we do is the collaboration and team building.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we're going to do another episode on company core values. Specifically, we're going to talk about living the values for alignment. Our special guest today is the CEO of Anteriad. It's a B2B performance marketing company. You want to check them out. They're a fast-growing company on the Inc. 5000. We're talking with Rob Sanchez and Heather Buxton. Rob is the CEO. Heather is the Chief People Officer. And we talk about living the values for alignment. What that really means is, how are they organizing around the values? Why are they important? How are they using them when they hire people? What are they doing to recognize and reward people? How are they creating activities? All of those things we discuss inside this episode, because I truly believe that one of the easiest things you can do and the free thing that you can do to create unity and create the culture that you want is to have a good set of values and to live the values for alignment. Use the values as guideposts and really support people to stay in alignment with those values as the company continues to grow. It gets harder as your company grows and scales. You want to make sure you have this to lean on and you can point back to when things are out of alignment. That's the way we use them inside of our coaching, helping companies grow their businesses. My job is to help you grow your business. If you have any questions about what we might be missing, or especially within the leadership culture side of the business, I'd love to get on a call with you, get to know what you're doing. We can use some frameworks. We can create a plan for you. You can execute that plan yourself, or you can actually come in and let me help you, me and my team, create the kind of coaching and the kind of training and the facilitation and transformation that it really takes to continue evolving and grow your company. If you're interested in that, just go to genehammett.com, schedule your call today. Now, here's the interview with Rob and Heather. Rob and Heather, how are you guys?
Very good.
Thank you.
We're going to have a great conversation today about what made you guys successful in growing this company to where it is today. Before we get there, let's talk about your company. Tell us about Anteriad.
Sure. Anteriad is a B2B marketing services business. We work in the areas of performance marketing, audience identification and activation, and analytics. And it's all powered by robust marketing cloud and technology. Predominantly work in a lot of enterprise technology, business to business, e-commerce and merchandise, but it's a B2B company. So that's our area of expertise.
Fantastic. I always like to ask you one probing question here about the market you're in. What do you wish that your clients understood before they would come to you? What are the things that keep coming up over and over and over that you wish that they would understand?
Yeah, I think where we do the best work is when we have a real good partnership and collaboration with the clients. So the more we can learn about their business, the more data and information they share, the better results we can get them. So that's probably the biggest thing that we like to go into client engagements is if we can truly be a partner and share information both ways, we can get you some really good results.
And you've been talking so much, Rob. Maybe we need to do a quick introduction. What's your primary role there? And then we'll switch over to Heather.
Sure. I'm the CEO of Anteriad. So my job is obviously to run and grow the company. Been doing this in various different forms for quite a while. And we've gone through quite an evolution of growth and evolved into pretty sizable company over the years. But job is to basically run the company, look forward, grow the company, and keep getting in front of our competition.
And I'm the chief people officer. So I focus on really all of our talent and human capital, our strategy around that, just the vision around building a great team and retaining that team, just really driving success through focusing on, what our culture is, living our values, engaging our talent, and everything really in between.
I've always been wanting to do a lot more of these interviews. It's hard to get two CEOs or CEO and a CPO on the same interview because of time and whatnot. So I appreciate you guys being here. And I really excited to unpack what made you guys successful. When you think about getting to 500 employees plus, I know you guys are close to 547, give or take? It changes daily.
That's right.
What are the keys to that? Like when you think about as you're going through different phases, what do you think were the real things that made the biggest difference as you guys grew to this level?
I think that the biggest thing is exactly that, is evolving and evolving your perspective. I know as a leader, I've evolved quite a bit from the very early days to when we first got funding and got private equity backing through acquisitions, and being open to kind of learning along the way and changing, how you think about the business. And probably one of the biggest things that I've seen is, being a CEO, it's always been about kind of hard driving the numbers and how do we hit our goals and all that. But my kind of probably the biggest thing I've evolved in the leadership style has been, because of all the acquisitions and what we've done, really learning to collaborate and really respecting and prioritizing some of the soft skills. And also Heather's role was one that evolved over time, from where you're kind of doing the HR work to where you're really becoming into people and culture. And it's a natural progression. So that's probably the biggest thing we've seen.
Speaking of Heather, I have no idea the background, and if you came in from the outside or you developed along with the journey of this. How many employees were you joining the company?
So I started in the fall of 2019. At that point, we were Merit Direct. I know you've since changed names as we've gotten bigger and gone through acquisitions. So at that point, my role was more tactical, keeping the wheels on the bus, and then it's morphed. So I started there about 120 employees at my start, and now we're over close to 550. It's been pretty immense growth in over 3 years, a little over 3 years.
Now, Rob just talked about evolving as a leader. Here's the one thing I want you to remember. Your job is not to stay the same. It's not to be predictable, because if you stay the same, the company will be limited by its growth. As the CEO of a company, if you're listening to this, I'm talking to you. Your job is to continue to evolve, transform how you see the world. What used to work will no longer work. Trust me, I've seen this over and over again. Your job is to evolve. One of the easiest way to do that is to really project yourself into the future of your company. Who would you be and how would you operate? How would you see things at 3 times your size? Now, that may be 3 years in the future. It may be a little bit further, but really being able to concrete and be really clear about who you are, who you're being at that point in time, and then look at where you are now. One example I have is, I was talking to someone the other day that's like, well, I am focused on being available for my team. I want to be there for them all the time. And I get it. But 5 years from now, when they're 3 times the size that they are now, and they're, a $75 million company, her role is going to be different. And I said, well, let's just clearly identify what your role is, and let's create a plan for you to get there faster than over this period, because you've got to be the person that you really want to become before you will receive the benefit of that. If you're not sure about what I'm talking about, that means we probably need to have a conversation. If you are sure, then we definitely need to have a conversation about how you're going to show up and who you're going to be as you continue to move forward. Back to Rob and Heather. You had mentioned living values. I have so many thoughts around this. In fact, I've got a book that's planned on this. If I showed you my background, you'd say, well, why don't you just write the damn thing? But when someone says we're living the values, I always take a little bit of hesitance to that, because I think it's something people say, but they don't actually do. How would we know that you're actually doing this process of living the values, Heather?
I think we put a lot of emphasis on it, at all levels of the organization. I would say that, our leadership team, we truly live them. And then as we roll out different initiatives, we, try to tie them back to, the reason that we have these values. It's a foundation for how we do business, really tells our clients what's important to us. And then even with people who are joining us, we want people to join whose values align with ours. And we want people to make decisions based on these values. So even, and I can go through them, our values now are lead and learn, innovate and inspire, collaborate and celebrate, and do more and do good. So that's our focus. And it's really a well-rounded focus of who we are, internally as well as in our communities.
So you got it.
Gene, one of the important things to add was that we didn't just post these up and say, this is it. We went through a process, particularly with our rebranding, where we wanted to get feedback from what does everybody think about the company? What does everybody think is important? And we went into the organization with that. So they're really a reflection of kind of getting across different areas, what people thought about the business and how they felt about, how we treat our customers, et cetera.
And you got it down to 4, which is really hard to do.
Exactly. Could have been more, but yeah.
Every time I've done this with clients, they're fighting for, well, we've got to have this one. We can't have that one. And we will. And they went from a place of they didn't have them at all to a place of we've got to have 7. We got to have 10.
Right. We've gone through that evolution. Yeah, exactly.
Living the values tells me you've got certain rituals inside the organization. And I'm just curious, what are your favorite rituals for expressing the values? And maybe it's recognizing or rewarding people, or maybe it's something else.
But with anything I do from the HR side of things, I try to tie, whatever the activity is, to a value. So, one of our values is around, do more and do good. So we have a cause, and it's called Anteriad Cares, and that's our philanthropic effort to to give back to our communities. So we do things, donate money is one thing, but then we also donate our time. Pretty recently, we went and did a soup kitchen. We took a group from our headquarters. Anything that would be on our Anteriad Care side, anything to do with we want to celebrate our wins from the client perspective, but also celebrating, our other wins internally. Like we received a Great Place to Work certification, and that was all based on what our employees said about us. And that's, tied to how we're celebrating, collaborating together to really enrich this culture that we have. In terms of learning and development, I usually point it towards lead and learn, which seems to be the most obvious. But even we rolled out a mentoring program, year 2 of mentoring program now, which has more than doubled in size in year 2, which is exciting.
Rob, what would you add about that on your perspective on the rituals of living the values?
Yeah, I just think it's important. I keep coming back to the collaboration. It's all a function of we've combined several different companies in short order. We've grown quite a bit on some of the things we've decided to invest in as far as resources and businesses. And the key thing is having your main leaders, your team members have a seat at the table. And I think when you get that feedback from them, you're kind of giving it's good direction to as where you want to go. So I think being collaborative at the top ranks and then have that go out through the organization is important. And you always don't have to agree. Actually, it's better sometimes if you don't, because you're truly getting good input. But I think that's a key to what we do is the collaboration and team building.
I'm glad we had a chance to do this. And you guys are also what I would call is a mission-driven company. What is the mission of the company?
Yeah, I think our goal is really we're customer centric, so it's to help our clients and our customers succeed and grow their businesses. And we have a central focus on B2B, on data, on marketing services, but it really all comes back to the success of our customers and how do we help them. And the best things we can do is provide that. I mean, if you look at our retention rates with our clients, they're through the roof. They're great. So we keep people coming back, but it's really having success and helping people grow their businesses.
We've been talking about the importance of living values and how that's impacted the company. Would you say that it impacts the bottom line, or is it too far disconnected to actually say that there is a direct line from living the values to what you see on profitability?
Yeah, it's a direct, I mean, the longer you do this, the more you see that direct connection. And I think the key thing you have to do when you're bringing together groups of people from different backgrounds and companies, and you're trying to make them, one of the things that we did with the rebranding with Anteriad means to get in front and to have everybody kind of unify around the values. And what it's created is teams, high performing teams working together, sharing in the wins, and it's a direct effect on how well we do and the ability to succeed.
I like that term, unifying around the values. Is there anything that you would add to this, Heather?
I mean, we'd kind of talked about being client centric, and that's really, that's part of our DNA. And I think that's where we continue to drive home these values, because we want it to be reflective of how we're composed as a company and the good things that we do. So even down to, for example, I don't touch the end client, but I even have a client-centric outlook where, by the way, I support my internal clients. So there's always a trickle effect that gets us to that bottom line.
I want to connect the dots as best we can, because I know that it's there, but I don't know how you guys see it. But leadership and the values of the company, how would you guys describe the connection?
I think really what it starts, obviously at the top, it starts by setting examples. And I think one of the biggest challenges has been when you talk leadership, people often keep it isolated to kind of a few positions or a handful of positions. And the challenge has been to get people with an ownership accountability model, the extreme ownership. They think in terms of they're accountable, and to really set the table enough that you've got a mission, you've got goals, you want people to perform a certain way, but they also do have flexibility within how they can perform. They have flexibility to run groups with some nuances. I think if you bring a whole bunch of people together and they're from different companies and different places, and you absolutely say we do everything the same, that's not what we're really talking about with values. We're talking about guiding principles, but the ability to adjust within that. And it's important in business because if anything over the last few years has shown us, there's been a lot of wrinkles in the macro environment, right? A lot of changes. You had COVID happen. You have macro conditions now that are at times can be challenging. And if you can't adapt to that and don't have a model that bends a little bit, you're not going to succeed.
I want to give Heather a chance to do this, because I'm sure your big part of what you're doing in your role is making sure that we are aligned to the values. So what do you add to that, Heather?
Like I said, I anytime that we can, we try to emphasize what the values are, down to the day that someone starts. We recently started sending them, swag, and there's a handwritten note in there from me about what living the values means, and that we want this to be part of who they become at the company and how they represent us. So it starts from day one, and everything that we do in terms of engagement and is really focused on those values, and it encompasses them. So we always try to bring it back to the values on a certain level. I mean, it's more than them just being posted, in our boardroom, for example. We have these, pretty pictures, and the words are on the wall as you walk into headquarters. But it means more to that. It's a way of life, and you're trying to tie what we do to the values so people see how they work together and how we are implementing them.
Yeah, I mean, Gene, one of the big things is just listening, right? And we've gone through different iterations of what do we do to make people, enjoy work, make it meaningful. Swag is always good. Food's always good. People love food, right? You feed them, it's barbecues, but it really is listening to what your audience and what they want to do, and you'll get there. I mean, we've set up different committees to look at different things, but I mean, if you just listen to your teams, they'll tell you how they want to work and what's meaningful to them.
Great point. Listening's free too.
That's right.
But it's hard to do because you have to take time. One last
Yeah.
question, and this is for you guys just to kind of think about your relationship. A lot of the people listening in here are either thinking about bringing on someone that's going to be leading the charge on culture and values. But how have you guys found working together optimize? What is the thing that you could share with us?
Yeah, I'll start. I think the biggest thing that I learned, this was one of the areas. Like I was not naturally, my background was very business, marketing, sales, driving numbers. I was not naturally akin to kind of elevating this area. But the more, and you made a point of connecting it to the bottom line, which is not the only reason to do it, but I can tell anybody that as you grow and you've got a bigger company, you really have to create some ideas and values that people can coalesce around. It will bring people together. So one of the things, I think one of the mistakes I probably made early on was not doing enough training, development, this area. And it became really obvious that we needed to do it. And that was part of bringing in Heather, and then the role she played and how that position has evolved has been critical to the company.
And I think, look, to be honest, we were kind of thrown into this. I started and then COVID hit. So, we were on these daily phone calls, and, Rob was really focused on keeping the business, being flexible in our business and adaptive to what was going on, in the macro environment. But then we also had to think about how do we keep people safe and what are they asking us for now? And they wanted to hear from us that, business is doing well, we're doing okay, we care about you. And these are all things that we had to really partner together on. So since then, it's really just been a partnership and a continued dialogue. I mean, we don't agree on everything, which is, how it is, right? But we can be constructive and have hard conversations.
Well, thanks for being here on the podcast, sharing your perspective on, creating alignment with this. I'm getting tongue-tied here because I'm just so excited about what we're saying. But, creating the alignment with living the values of the company. I really appreciate Rob, Heather, coming here to share what you know and your experience of this.
Great. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Another great episode here on the podcast where we talk about living the values for alignment. We unpacked a lot of the core elements of that, and I even shared some insights along this way. But I want to make sure that you understand that living the values is not something that is a project. It is something you're doing constantly. It's dynamic, and it changes over time. Maybe you have to get new values. That's great. Or you have to continue to live them to a higher degree. Are you optimizing living the values? Only you can answer that question. But if I can help you in any way, make sure you reach out to me. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.